Hey guys, in today's video we are going to set up Eve instance on my Windows laptop, and we'll also build our very first lab with few network devices in no time. So this is going to be an interesting demo with a lot of learnings. So let's get right in. So for installing Eve we need few simple things. First we need a laptop or a desktop with a minimum of 2 core processor that supports the virtualization like Intel VTX or AMD V. And on the RAM side we need 8 GB RAM with a 60 GB storage. Alright, so first thing first, before we installing Eve, we need to make sure that our network configuration in the VMware is set up correctly. So here we can use VMware Workstation or Player, or even we can use EXSI host. So I'm going to be using VMware Workstation for this demo. So let's first go to the virtual network editor. It shows we have VNet 1 and VNet 8 currently, but I will go to the change settings here. Then I will map the VNet 0 interface to my laptop wireless adapter. So this will make sure that the EVNG system as well as the virtual devices under this EVNG will be using my home network range for the management access. We can see that later. You can also choose option like NAT, but I found this is very simple. Alright, so let's begin our installation here. I'm going to create a new virtual machine first. Choose typical VM configuration. Now when it comes to ISO file, browse and select the EVNG Community Edition, which I already downloaded from official site. So Eve comes in two flavors. The Community Edition, which is totally free, then the Commercial Edition for the corporate, which comes with few additional features along with the premium support. So I will go with the Community Edition installation here with the latest version currently available. And it auto select the Ubuntu as the guest operating system and give a name for your VM machine and the location to store the VMDK file. And we can adjust the hard disk if you want, but we can always expand the disk space later if necessary. Click on custom configuration if you want to modify any of the resources. So I'm installing this on my laptop, so I'm going with the light configurations. I will change the network to custom and map to VNet 0 created earlier. Alright, that's the VM configuration. Let's power the VM. Perfect, now the installation begins. So this is going to take about 5 to 10 minutes depending how fast your system is. So during this process, it installed the Ubuntu base system, then the EVNG related packages, dependencies and all that good stuff. So I will do a fast forward here. Okay, so the installation is done now. The system will automatically reboots, and when it comes back up, you will see a EV console screen with the IP address displayed right on the top. Perfect. So now we can ready to move on. So once it is installed, it prompt for the root login. So the user ID would be root and the password is EVE, all in small letters. And if you want to change the password, you can do this during the setup. And we can also set the domain name. Next we need to configure the IP address. So by default EVE takes a DHCP, and if you want to assign a static IP range you can do that. So I'm going to assign IP from my home network and issue the subnet mask and the gateway address. Then we can configure the DNS and TP, which are optional. So now we have done the EVE configurations. Let's go ahead and check the UI access where all the action take place. So let's launch a browser and type http:// then the IP address we just configured on the CLI. So we can see a beautiful EVNG page loaded with a lot of UI features. So Eve doesn't come with any router or switch virtual images pre-installed because those are proprietary for the vendors like Cisco and Juniper. So we need to provide our own images before adding any nodes on EV. So let's navigate to EV documentation section quickly. So under the naming convention here, we can see all the details related to image update. So there is a particular path where the images should be uploaded, and there is a standard naming convention to be followed along with the file type. So for classical old devices, it uses .bin extension. However, most of the latest devices use .qcom2 file type. And you can see all these details on the EV page. So to upload an image, we can use WinSCP, which is a software we can install. And first, let's connect to the EV host with our root access on the WinSCP. So I already have few images which are already converted. So let's drag and drop these into the QEMU folder. So now comes to the fun part. So let's head over to the GUI and create our first lab. Now first let's give a name for our lab and save it. And it will open up a lab page where we can add the nodes. So to add a node, right click and choose the node button, where we can select whichever virtual devices we want to add in our topology. Since we have uploaded Cisco routers and switch image, these are the only devices that will be highlighted and available for selections. So for this lab, I'm going to add 3 routers and 1 switch for the management access. Now for the external connectivity to the outside world, we need to add a cloud object. So by default, Cloud 0 represents the management network, which internally connects to ETH0 interface on Eve host. So in our case, this means it will bridge directly to our home network, exactly what we want. Now let's add a basic connectivity between our devices now. So I will wire up the routers to the switch and connect the switch to the cloud object. Perfect. Now let's save our topology and start all the devices. Alright, so I think I have some problem here. My devices are not staying powered on. So it's immediately shut down when I try to start them again. I don't know if you have noticed this one, but during the resource allocations on the processor, I forgot to enable the virtualization, which is the VTX settings on the VM side. So now let's shut down the EVE and go back to the VM settings here and enable the VTX under the processor settings. So there we go. Now let's start the VM again and power on our lab devices. Excellent. Now you can see the devices are turning blue, which indicate that we are currently in the boot process. This is exactly what we want to see. I'm going to use a secure CRT as my terminal emulator for device access. Let me connect to the first router and we'll skip the initial configurations. Once it's booted up completely, let's configure the host name for this router just to make things easier. And we'll also configure a management interface of the router to use DHCP so that it can automatically obtain IP address from our home network. So let's bring the interface up with the no shutdown command. I'm also enable the DHCP debugs to watch the DHCP process in real time. Now you can see that I got an IP address ranging from 192.168.0.108. So let's recap what we accomplished in this video. So we have successfully installed Eve from scratch. We have configured the VMware network settings to ensure proper connectivity. We learned how to upload the virtual devices images on the Eve system. And finally, we created our first functional lab topology with a working network connectivity. This is just a beginning what we can do with Eve. In the upcoming videos, we'll dive deeper to the advanced features, creating more complex topologies and exploring more network scenarios. If you have any questions or running into any issues, please drop them in the comment section below. I'll read every comment and I'm here to help. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon on the next video.